Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? My name's Alex. I'm with the Linux Tube. Here because I belong to a Facebook group called Linux Community. We have quite a number of members there that are asking. I'm making a switch to Linux from Windows. What distribution should I start with? How does it work? That kind of stuff. So I decided that I'm going to compile a set of videos on choosing a distribution, how to install it, and kind of familiarizing yourself with it. But we're kind of going to go out of order on that a little bit. We're going to show a distribution that I think is a good one to start with in Linux that is kind of a somewhat seamless integration from Windows to Linux in the sense strictly of kind of the look and feel. In fact, you can make it look and feel a lot like Windows. It already is in its own way that the developers have created it, but you could also skin it or theme it to look more like Windows. And so I will show you the two differences in that. And hopefully this helps some people start their fun path down the road that we call Linux, as well as enjoying the benefits of what is known as free and open software. So this is the operating system I was talking about with the desktop environment Cinnamon. It's called Linux Mint. It's Linux Mint 20.3. It was recently released, and it's the stable version. That's another important thing. If you start getting into other derivatives of Linux, known as Arch, they're rolling releases. They also do have LTS versions, but LTS stands for long-term support, and rolling releases for literally that. It's a rolling release. As new drivers, new kernels, or new things are put on, they release it right away. It tends to sometimes cause issues with systems because some things are not compatible with your system, and therefore you can crash it or break it. Some of us bleeding edge people really like that because it gives you the latest and greatest of things, but you do run the risk of doing stuff. As a new to Linux user, I strongly recommend that you stay with the long-term support kernels. It gives you the ability to learn Linux without getting the added frustration of a download of a update that comes along that will literally do some damage or unset up your system the way you have it and create you the frustration of going through all of that. Now, some people may enjoy that frustration to force themselves to learn how to figure things out in Linux a little bit faster. Than some people just don't want that. They just want to use their system. They just want to do what they want, like get online, check their email, maybe set up Thunderbird or something like that in here, which is a mail client, so they can check their email clients on here, print documents, work on school stuff, business stuff, whatever. At any instance, if you are not interested in anything that could potentially damage your system, when you go to download and set up your distribution of Linux that you so choose, or one that you follow that somebody has recommended, choose the long-term support. That is a PSA announcement, okay? It saves lots of aggravation. So when you get into Linux, Linux Mint, and you log into your desktop fresh after your install, this is what you're greeted with right here. You are greeted with the welcome menu, also with it'll want to check for drivers if there's any new drivers out there. You click on that, it launches the driver manager, which what it does is it simply goes to the free and open source available drivers on the Linux Mint repositories and downloads the latest and greatest drivers for all your internal components, such as your video card, your sound card, your internet card or NIC card, all that good stuff. Also, this is kind of like a setup menu. Of course, it gives you the welcome menu here. Then you get the first steps. These are things that you can do to customize your Linux Mint distribution from accent color, which if you notice, when I click on here, it'll switch it to green versus blue, kind of like Windows, versus brown, which is a wild color, but I mean, purple's kind of cool. Even this teal over here is kind of sharp looking. I like it. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. Because I'm trying to stick with how can I make it look more like Windows, look and feel like Windows for people that are migrating over from Windows, I picked the blue. As you can see, it highlights it blue, just like it does in Windows. That Windows blue. Documentation. This will give you, these are all like perfect. This is guides, so I strongly suggest you get this in a PDF format. When you click on it, it'll pull this up, and give you the reading documentation on the Linux Mint. So if you have questions, it'll teach you installation guide, troubleshooting guide, all kinds of stuff. Isn't that cool? Just goes right to their internet page, and it pulls that up. So if you got any questions or you're concerned about where you're at in this Linux Mint distribution, it can certainly help you with that. New features. This will tell you any new features that are in this derivative of Linux or update of Linux. It'll tell you about that. And any release notes. These are bugs or limitations that you can't do or workarounds. These are ones that have been reported when they release this in an early format to other users as a beta test group, if you will. This will they'll get reports back on any bugs or issues that they experienced, that they fixed. So they will give you these release notes that'll tell you these are bugs that we experienced in the development of this version of Linux, of this iteration, and any limitations that we found in it, and this is what you can do to fix it or work around it should you experience this problem. So this is a good place to delve into and start reading as you are using your desktop. Make sure you go here and check these things out. Also help, if you got any help, it gives you IRC chat, which has been around for eons, and web forms. Those are things that a lot more of Windows users are a little bit more familiar with. It goes here and it takes you right to the Linux Mint web form, which, by the way, you can find on their web page, which is easy to find if you just Google Linux Mint. It'll take you right to their web page. And then also, everything in Linux is free. We're just going to put that out there. There are some versions of Linux that you pay for, but you're paying for the support for the most part. There are some proprietary software out there, but once again, you're paying for support for the most part. Linux as a whole is pretty much so free and open source, and it means just that, free and open source. There are countless amounts of developers and testers and people like me that have been using for Linux for years that belong to different communities that contribute to make Linux what it is. Hundreds upon thousands of hours have been put in by many, many people across the world, across the globe, to develop these versions of Linux and these desktop environments, to the kernel, to everything. There's all aspects. There are people working around it constantly around the world in communities and groups. So when you get a distribution like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, Manjaro, Endeavor OS. There's just tons of them out there. You can go to a web page called www.distrowatch, and there's literally hundreds of thousands of Linux distributions put on there, both current, new, and old, that you can scroll through and see how many there are out there. That'll give you an idea of how much work has been put into Linux. At any instance, it's all done gratis free by a lot of people. Conical, which owns Ubuntu, is a large organization. They get paid, and they do pay developers for the most part through a lot of ad promotion and stuff like that that they do with their company. But for the most part, like a lot of your Arch distributions, Linux Mint, a lot of it's done for free. A lot of it are just developers that are out there doing their stuff and doing their geeky stuff, and they're developing stuff to make people be able to use something because they have a passion for it. So if you get a chance to contribute, please do. This will take you, if you click on here, it'll take you to the webpage where you can contribute to Linux Mint developers. Every little bit counts and helps. It helps buy new equipment, new things that they need to make the distribution better. So it's never a frowned upon thing. If you give 50 cents, that's good. If you give $10, that's great. They're never gonna be upset with anything that you give. So just donate what you can. Thanks. So now onto the desktop. This is what you're met with: a nice clean desktop, kind of set up just like Windows. If you see, you got your My Computer and your home folder, which is where your plate would be. My places in Windows. If I remember correctly, I haven't been on Windows in years, so at any instance, this is my places. It gives you your file system as well as your home folders where you know have, just like Windows, public folder that's a shared folder, videos, document folders, download folders, pictures, yeah, all that good stuff. And my computer is literally a file explorer that takes you right to your file system. Just like that. See, here's all your core file systems. However, unlike Windows, you do not have direct access to core system files. You have to access them through what's known as a root function. Root function is a administrative function. So that being said, you cannot just aimlessly wander around this operating system and destroy core files that will stop you from keeping an solid running operating system unless you give it root function. 9 times out of 10 to do root, well, not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 to do a root function, you're going to have to put in your root password. Now, to do that, it'll pop up a dialog saying, I want you, you need to put in your root password. And when you put in your password, then it'll perform that function. If a password log comes up, it gives you a moment to pause and think. So always think about what it is that you're doing. If you're not sure what you're doing, then don't put in a password. Go online, Google, what it is that you're doing, and make sure that you're supposed to be putting in a password to make those changes. If you're not supposed to be putting in a password, then you've obviously took a left turn instead of a right turn somewhere. So just kind of remember that when you're new to Linux. If you're having to put in a password, that means you're about to execute some form of root permission or function. And so just pause for a moment and think and make sure that that's what you're supposed to be doing at that moment. So you have these icons on the desktop. Okay. Then in the left-hand bottom corner, you have your basic start menu along with some favorite places. Now, the thing is about Linux is they kind of repeat themselves a lot. Like you have these pinned to the taskbar. These are like your taskbar buttons that you pin in Linux, in Windows. In Linux, you have them here as well because that's, again, another similarity that they're trying to create with Windows users, as well as the start button, the start menu launcher. And then you have favorites up here. These here are favorites. Now in here, it's pretty much the same as what you have down here, pinned to the taskbar. And to remove them, you just simply right-click. You can right-click on them to remove them, or you can go, in some distributions, you can right-click them to remove them. Other distributions, you can go in, there's a setting to remove them. Linux Mint I don't use very often, so I'm not sure exactly where that's at, but I'm sure you can Google that and find that out if you don't like them there. And then, as you can see, you got your power button for shutting down or quitting. Then you have your logging out button, and you have your locking your screen button. Over here, you have your applications like you do in your start menu. You have all applications right here. This is everything that's installed on this computer. Basic applications that come along that are compiled with the install. None that you've added on, because this is just a fresh install. The only thing I did was I downloaded another desktop environment. This is desktop environment. It's known as Cinnamon. I downloaded another one known as Plasma that allows you to be like 100% customizable to make it look and feel like Windows 10. So when I finish this, I will log out of this one and I will log into that one just to show you what it looks like. And the settings manager in there where you can download different things. You got your games, category and all this good stuff right here. I mean, just a lot like Windows. If you're coming over from Windows, this is pretty much so self-explanatory. Over in the right-hand corner, you've got your date and your time. If you click on it, it opens up your calendar and any events, that you can put in here. You can do your date and time settings right here. If you have events, you can add them in right here, I believe. I believe you click on it and it'll add them in. Yep, see? It opens up your calendar and you can add in an event. Okay? So that's how you do that. Then, of course, is your volume panel. This is your sound setting and stuff like that. This will, you can go to sound settings here, just like you do in Windows. You can get whatever you want. If there's a microphone, a 5-point channel, you got your inputs, you got different sounds, applications that use this, and any settings that you want to adjust in there. This is basically for the overall new user to Linux, so I don't imagine you guys are going to be delving too far into things. And if you have any lengthy experience with Windows, it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. So you should be able to look at it, click on it, figure out where you're at. If you're new, obviously, you'll be like, well, and then you can do some research. Google is your friend. I cannot stress that enough. YouTube is your friend. There are many YouTube content creators for Linux out there. A couple of them right off the top of my head. You have Garner Bryant, then you have Derek over at Distro. You have the Linux Cast. Those three right there are ones that put out constant videos all the time on things to do in Linux. Scroll back through their other, their library, and maybe search the library for something that you're looking for. Because I'm pretty sure those three guys have addressed something somewhere of what you're looking at. Those guys are excellent, and of course, go to their different support channels like their Patreon, their YouTube channel, and support them as well. Because like us and like the developers for Linux, we're doing this for free. We're not paid by anybody. I don't have any ad support on here. You can like and subscribe my page. That'd be awesome. I'm not asking that you subscribe, but at least like it. So that it gets further up the chain in YouTube and it reaches other people that are looking for help with this kind of stuff. So at least at the very minimum do that. But of course, if you want to support me, that's great. Just subscribe through Linux. I'd appreciate it. I will be setting up a Patreon account later and all that kind of stuff because I'm breaking into this just now. I see the need here and I just want to help out. And then right here next is your package manager, which is your update manager, of course, which is pretty much like your Microsoft updates. That's what this is. This will tell you if there's anything that needs to be updated. It'll only be a lot less. And unlike Windows, this will not force an update on you. Never, ever, ever will it automatically want to force an update on you. You have to click update or install updates right here. Without that, it will not do it on its own. Not like one of those things in Windows where you go to shut down your computer and bam, I've got an update. And you're stuck in that wonderful update loop. So yeah, you won't experience that in Windows. In Linux, which is a wonderful thing. Then next to that, you have your system reports. If you click on this will give you any system crash reports, errors, bugs, or anything like that. Right now, it's checking to see if there's anything that needs to be done. This is telling you basically that you can install language packs. There's many language packs out there for different languages across the globe because Linux is a multi-community, multi-faceted operating system that's spread throughout the world. In fact, 90% of the world outside of America uses Linux over Windows and Apple. So that's a little interesting fact that I found out a while ago. It was kind of cool. And it's simply because it's free and open source. You could also set up a system restore utility. They do have that in here, known as Timeshift. In the welcome menu, it gives you the ability to do that. For the sake of time, we'll go over that one later on down the road in another video on how to set that up. In fact, here it is right here to launch Timeshift because it comes, I believe, installed already in here because it is requiring root function because it's going to make a snapshot or a restore function of your system. It requires root privileges. So I'm going to put in my strong and complicated password that I set up for this virtual machine, and it's going to launch Timeshift. And this is exactly how it does. It takes a time shot. You can set up in an rsync or the BTRFS format. Once again, this is just an overview of it. We're not going to go into it. When I get one set up, when we go to the video for Timeshift, I'll show you how to set it up and then how to take an actual snapshot. At any instance, this is a system restore function that comes already built right in, just like Windows. This is what it looks like once you set it all up and everything, put the settings in, but you want to do your settings first. And you can do that by the wizard. Then you can click on here and you have system information. This tells you all the information. This is like your system info on Windows. It tells you everything that's in there that you're using, from the dimensions of your operating system to the dimensions of your computer hardware, right down to the topology of your CPU, that kind of stuff. And any crash reports. So if it had a crash, what happened, why it did what it did. So at any instance, that is pretty much so Cinnamon, Linux Mint Cinnamon version in a nutshell. So we're going to log out now, and then I'm going to log in to the KDE version, which is right here. You click on that little button, you click on Plasma. I put in my strong and complicated password, and then I'm going to log into what's set up like Windows, right down to the splash screen. And this is what it looks like. Start button, start menu over here on tabbed for, instead of the categorized on vertical, it's a tabbed version. Okay. your information, for your package your update, your system update, your clipboard, your volume, your network, all that stuff is up over in this area over here. This is shows your desktop right here. So say we'll just go to favorites, open up Firefox. We're going to open up Dolphin, right? It's all open up in the background, right? Say I just want to get real quick, minimize it all because it's all cluttered or whatever. Click on this button, bam! You're at a clean, fresh desktop. Just like that. You can right-click on these to close, just like you do in Windows. No problems whatsoever. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much so Linux Mint in a nutshell. You can, like I said, you can customize it to look and feel just like Windows if you want. To do this one, it's the KDE Plasma desktop environment. You are going to go to your system settings, which is KDE has 100% more abilities to customize than anything else. And you can go to your application style, your login, your display, your global theme, which is pretty much what I did. I downloaded Plasma Dark. Plasma X Dark. That is I'm a fan of dark themes. A lot of people are. And this is like the sets up for the Windows 10 Plasma Dark, like the Windows 10 dark theme for the overview for a global theme on your Linux Mint distribution. And for the most part, you can do that on any KDE distribution, whether it's Linux Mint, Arch Linux, any of these other derivatives of Linux. At any instance, hey, this is Alex from the Linux Tube saying goodbye and have fun.